Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classics as Non-Classics. This is episode number 1654 and Doubleshot number 1548. I have two Batman trades. This book, I really want my hands on because I love this series, despite the stupid storyline involving one of my favorite characters. By the way, that storyline is not in this trade. Oh no, it is not. This is a series started just this year. Batman Urban Legends. Which, when I heard about this time, I'm like, okay, a Batman anthology book featuring a lot of the supporting characters in Batman books who either DC probably doesn't have a chance, even though that. Now, here's the thing: the two characters whose features are in this book, which is one is for Red Hood, yes, Red Hood, and it was for Grifter. Now, this comes after the events of Joker War. So, of course, basically, we have stuff here for that. Now, in the case of Red Hood, he just had a feature for Future State, and now he has a feature here in Batman Urban Legends. He's here for first 6 issues, and that's it for him. Of course, his story is done by the awesome Chip Zdarsky, and the artwork is done by, for these 6 issues, at least 5 artists, one of whom I've actually met, Eddie Barros. Awesome guy to meet in person. We also have Marcus 2, Jesus Moreno, Dinga Neves, and Scott Eden. The Grifter one, which is called The Long Con, that is done by a writer I have met, Matthew Rosenberg. I have met him once, from what I remember. Yeah, I met him at Comic-Con. I think it was about 3 years ago, I think it was. The artwork is done by Ryan Benjamin. Now, in the case of Red Hood, this input is the first time people have seen him publication-wise since the events of Joker War, because his book got canceled last year. Actually, got canceled in 2020. Yep, got canceled in 2020. So, yeah, I thought it was really weird. You end the Red Hood title just after Scott Lobdell left the book. He leads the book issue 50, and then 2 issues just after he left, the book ends. And the weird thing is, those last 2 issues are not in trade. To my knowledge, I do not know what was the reason for it. Were they terrible issues? Not really, no. They mostly were there just to give Red Hood a happy ending. Though I should point out though that girl he hooked up with in that book is nowhere to be seen here. The story here is that Red Hood gets a little bit of trouble after accidentally killing a, drug dealer, basically seriously hurting him. Batman's here, but he's here as a supporting character. He's not the star of this feature. It's all about Red Hood. It's also his kid, where this is actually the son of the man he actually injured. He calls himself Blue Hood because he likes color blue. And he's also getting Red Hood's mask, which I thought it was so nice of him to do that. And by the way, in this book, he actually is still wearing his the outfit he basically put on when the Red Hood and the Outlaw book changed from the Outlaws Volume 2 to Red Hood Outlaw, which issue I believe was like 26, I think it was. Yeah, he still has that particular costume. Because here he is, still wearing that very same outfit. And underneath his mask, his Donna mask is, from what I can tell, it's the same. You can tell by looking, it could possibly be Dick Grayson's old Nightwing mask from the New 52 book. Not really confirmed here about that. There's also flashbacks when Jason I was Robin. Yes, he was Robin. And plus, I love this artwork by Eddie Barros. It is so freaking good. I love this artwork. Him doing this book makes total sense because he's very good at drawing Batman. So basically, he takes the kid in with him, and then of course Batman teams up with Red Hood, deal with this cherry drug, and he teams with him, but he doesn't want to leave the kid alone, which that's quite nice to do. So does he go with him to basically this little breakup thing? No, he takes the boy, drops off with Leslie Tompkins. I'm like, that's not a bad idea. She's an adult who's actually very trustworthy. She's a doctor, and she's an old friend of Batman's. So, of course, basically, he dropped up there, and not much is known exactly what happened right after he dropped off with her. Of course, they do deal with a particular business owner, which Red Hood breaks his office. Excuse me. who get this. Like his, I'm not here to hurt you, I'm here to ask you some questions. And this businessman, who by the way is black, I should point out though, he's not. Jason Todd is, from what I can tell, is not a racist. He is not talking about his skin color at all. He just talks to him like he's a businessman. Because, of course, he was raised by a businessman. So, they chat for a bit. They look up a particular drug that apparently was made from his own this guy's own chemicals. And they track it down to Gotham U. And, of course, they go to the drug dealer. And, of course, well, the boy decided to give himself a new hood. And, of course, he has supposedly Red Hood give up his guns in the story. And then you have Batman leaving Jason Todd a gift. His old Red Hood costume from the early days of Rebirth. It's like, okay, that's interesting. An absolute really damn good story. The other story is about Grifter. Now, Grifter was actually just previously seen prior to this particular story in Batman 101. When this book came out, I believe the book had just reached 106 at the time the series started. And mostly people would just follow him for 6 issues. Lucius Fox is here, and just basically doing his job as a bodyguard. He also runs into a character that, to my knowledge, I don't think he's ever met before. Okay, the character he runs into is not the first pop by Batman comic book, but first I can think of these two I've ever met. Grifter runs to freaking Deathstroke of all people. Yes, Deathstroke. Which, I'm trying to think, when was the last time he appeared prior to this? I think last time he may appeared was probably during, it wasn't the end of a series. No, he did pop a few times since then. But wow, freaking Deathstroke. And then all of a sudden, basically in the story, there's this weird stuff going on. And he eventually reunites with the Wildcats of all people. Yes, the Wildcats from Wildstorm Universe. And then they apparently disappear, or apparently they were a hallucination. I thought it was just kind of weird. And then, of course, he goes off and says, I'll call you. And Batman shows up, and he has Lucius, what the heck is going on? Lucius is like, I have no idea what the heck is going on. I think it ends with, Wildcats will return. When? I don't know. The issue came, I know the first issue came, I think was March, I think it was. And I believe issue 6 came out in, let me see here. Okay, this book was released in August of last year. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. There is actually a couple other books in this book. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe she does pop up in this book. Let me take a look here. Because there's actually another character that does pop up in this book. They included her in here because, well, why the heck not? And look, here's Deathstroke. And you're probably thinking, really? Deathstroke interacting with Grifter of all people? Now, I've read a lot of appearances. Now, Grifter, prior to pop up in this book, and of course, prior to Batman, apparently his last appearance with Pages of Grace, which I forgot he was appearing in that book. But he did also pop up in, like, his own solo book. It's like, ever since his solo book ended, his appearances have been very scarce over the years. The reason? I'm not really sure what was the reason for his lack of appearances. Mm-hmm. Now, Zelda herself does appear for, like, one story of... she doesn't get her own story in this book, per se. Let's see. She pops up in issue 4 and 5. Let's see if I can find her here. Let's see if I can find. I'm trying to find it here. Might take a bit, but I think I can find it. You think a character like Zealot, who actually is a character from Wildstorm, that they include it in here, but they don't include it for some reason. I think I'm getting very close to her. Here she is. Here's Zealot. Yep, that's her. Yeah, and believe it or not, she made her first appearance in the current continuity in the pages of Deathstroke in a book done by Rob Liefeld. Yep, Liefeld was one who brought her in. And you might be asking, okay, did in fact Rob Liefeld create this character? No. She's a creation of Jim Lee and Brandon Choi. Yes, Jim Lee is the creator of this character. She's from the pages of Wildcats, of all things. Yes. Oh yeah, and here's the thing. In the pages of Wildstorm, she actually is a mother of two. Yeah, and her kids are pretty much grown up now. Makes sense they include her in here because, well, I read here, she looked like she was in sexual relationship with Grifter. Now here's the thing. Her daughter's father is none other than Mr. Majestic himself, and the father of her other child, whose name is Winter, his father is a guy by the name of John Colt, aka Spartan, who's from the pages of Wildcats. Yeah, but this book is really, really good. I do recommend getting this trade paperback because the stories in this book are really good. I'm gonna give this book roughly a. I'm gonna give it a 10 out of 10. Just damn good. Now I should point out though, the case issue 1, I have technically 3 stories issue 1 now because I've also reviewed the Harley Quinn story from issue 1. Yep, I have. I reviewed that in the very first trade for Harley Quinn. So the first story has actually got 4 stories in it, and the story that's I have not reviewed yet from issue 1 is the Outsiders storyline. Yep, the Outsiders, which that should be interesting when that gets finally collected in trade paperback form. Oh yeah, I think it definitely should be interesting. The Outsiders are only in the first 3 issues, and they're in the last, well, I believe they're in the last 2 issues that came out. It should be quite interesting when the next line comes out for this one. But as what story's going to be in there, I don't know. Harley Quinn will be in there because it's a Harley Quinn trade. But having the 2 good stories in this book, that's actually awesome. I love it. Alright, next up is a Bat book. I have technically covered the... Excuse me about this. Okay. I have technically covered the 3rd book of this already, but here's second book. This is the Batmanga by Jajaro Katawa. Yeah, this is the second of 3 volumes. I still have not reviewed volume 1 yet. No, I haven't. I've only reviewed volumes 2 and 3. Now, this book has got a few different stories in this one. You have The Revenge of Clayface, The Hangman of Terror, Fiend of the Masquerade Festival, Mystery the Outsider, and the Monster of Gore Bay. This book is pure awesomeness. I love this. And despite the fact this is manga, but the only reason I'm reviewing it, because it's superhero. Well, it's American superhero published by Japanese comic books. That's the only reason why. And you probably think, okay, but what about the Go Ranger one? That was a TV series that was adapted from manga. And that was only one book. And surprisingly, several of the early Super Sentai were adapted from manga, but not every single one. Okay, but in the case of this, Ranch Clayface. It's a story featuring Clayface. Mm-hmm. It is a quite lengthy story. And the thing is, you're probably curious though, what the heck does Clayface look like under this artwork, you might ask? Well, the artist draws him like this. Yeah. And it just basically them versus Clayface. That's simply what it is, but it's a damn good story. Mm-hmm. The second story is all about the Hangman Terror. Now, like Clayface, who is an American, who is actually a regular Batman villain, who is actually this one? It could be not Basil Carl. He didn't have the changing powers yet. This kid came out in the 50s. I think this could be the second Clayface. Who was the second Clayface? Let's see. It was not Carlo. Matt Hagen. It was probably Matt Hagen. He was probably the one who was Clayface in the story. Well, it could be him, but not really per se. Because this came out in the 50s. But he's the only one who could fit. That could be this guy. It's possible to say the least. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it's him. Hangman 1 is basically about wrestling and Batman avoiding being killed by the Hangman. Really interesting, dark, suspenseful story. The Fiend of the Massacre Festival. About Musketeer stuff for this one. Mystery the Outsider. This is sort of a remake of an old Earth 1 story. If you're curious though about the Outsider, he is a resurrected Alfred Pennyworth. Who, get this, was killed by being run over by a boulder, saving Bruce Wayne's life. Excuse me. And it was a period of several years. And the story here recreates that story. And if you're curious though, does the artist recreate the Outsider how he naturally looks in DC Comics? Yeah, he actually does a really good job. Outsider is technically Alfred Pennyworth, resurrected as this monster. He's Outsider for a few years. Though the Outsider would eventually return post-crisis. Though you have to wait until 2013 for the Outsider return. Though this one is a also version of Alfred Pennyworth from Earth 3 who got the white skin from the Joker. Yep, and the monster one this is a little fun one, where Batman is assigned to protect Professor from this monster, and also, get this, apparently that the Professor's daughter has fallen mad over heels in love with Robin. She even gives him a kiss, and apparently Robin is moonstruck, which I thought was so funny. So, this one is actually a pretty fun story, just Batman taking on a kaiju monster, which I thought was quite cool. But this book is pure awesomeness. Like I said, pure awesomeness at its finest. I give this book a 10 out of 10. I mean, would you give this book a ranking any lower? I mean, it's a Batmanga, published back in the 50s. Yeah, so, would you expect anything else? By the way, the chapters published in this book are 20 to 40. Volume 3, which I have reviewed. That collected, different ones. Oh, it's almost in 60s and 50s, so yeah, I was wrong about that. My apologies. Mm-hmm. But yeah, two really good books. I will eventually track down Volume 1 so I can basically get my full thoughts on this really good manga. Yeah, I do recommend everybody check it out because it's just really good. Okay, so that's a particular review. Next one's going to be another Comic Corner and probably manga review. I'm hoping to do one punch. I haven't read new chapters yet, so they'll probably up soon. Okay, next video. Bye.